You're watching Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I am Chase Sr. And before we get to Steph Curry's absurd hot streak, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 16,000 subscribers. We're currently at 15,535, so we have some work to do, but I think we can get there. And if you're watching this asking yourself, why should I subscribe? Well, we're pushing out multiple videos every single week. With the NBA playoffs coming up and the Warriors climbing up the Western Conference standings, you already know we're going to be covering this team approaching the playoffs and if they get in. And it's never too early to look ahead to the NBA draft. We're going to give you some NBA draft prospect scouting profiles. I'm going to do that later this week. So those are reasons right there to subscribe to Warriors Today. So hit that big red button down below and go to youtube.com/WarriorsTV and subscribe today. Welcome into Warriors Today. I am your host, Chase Sr., and Steph Curry is on a heater. That's what we've deemed it here at Chat Sports. Last week, my man was going off, making history in the making. 36 three-pointers last week, 3 games with at least 10 three-pointers, and he scored 175 points in 4 games, allowing the Warriors to get hot, find some form of consistency, going 3-1. I'm not sure we've ever seen any player in NBA history have a week like Steph Curry did, especially as the NBA game has evolved. And Steph Curry, my goodness, I mean, he's white hot right now, and it's absolutely ridiculous. In 4 games last week, almost 44 points per night. He's shooting an absurd 57% from the floor, almost 55% from 3, and almost 91% from the free throw line. I mean, guys, we are looking at history in the making with one of the best weeks in the history of the NBA. We already knew that Steph Curry was one of the best scorers ever. Well, he's kind of like duplicating that and just taking it to different proportions. So, here at Chat Sports, we've just been in awe of what Steph Curry has been doing. So we have put together the Steph Curry heater meter. So get into the comments and scale it for me from 1 to 100. He's white hot. I'm going 100 all the way because that's how Steph Curry is playing right now, putting a Warriors team on his back and absolutely carrying the squad right now. And I mentioned that Steph Curry has been making history not just this week, but this season, which has been one of the best of his NBA career. He is overtaking some of the greatest names in NBA history and some of the best shooters and scorers that the game has ever seen. I put together this list of players in the NBA who have scored at least 10 three-pointers in their NBA career. So Ray Allen had 1 game in which he dropped 10 trays. Kobe Bryant had 1 game in which he scored 10 three-pointers. Peja Stojakovic of the Sacramento Kings, who was a sharpshooter for Sacramento, only had 1 game in his NBA career where he scored 10 three-pointers. Reggie Miller didn't even record 10 three-pointers in a single night. Steph Curry last week alone, 3 games in which he dropped 10 tray balls. And now, at this point in his career, Steph Curry is hitting three-pointers at an absurd rate, 43.4%. I think it's safe to say right now that Steph Curry is the greatest shooter that the game has ever seen. It's no longer a debate. It's no longer a conversation. Steph Curry is that dude. He's the greatest three-point shooter that we've ever seen, and I'm not sure another player is going to come along that's going to overtake him in that category. And with that hot streak last week, here are his numbers so far this season, and they continue to get better and better. Steph Curry, guys, I know he's already won 2 MVPs. This might be his best season that he's put together since coming out of Davidson, and that is crazy to say. 31 points per game. He's right behind Bradley Beal, who we're going to show you here in just a second. For the season, shooting 49%, and from 3, almost 43%. And from the free throw line, he's been virtually automatic. Now, I'm not sure Steph Curry is going to be able to put himself in a position where he's going to win the MVP because the Warriors just haven't been as good of a team to put him in that conversation. But in terms of the NBA scoring title race, we showed you this graphic last week, and Steph Curry continues to make up ground on Bradley Beal. 31.1 points per game for Bradley Beal, and Steph Curry is right there at 31 even. And how about Joel Embiid at 30 points per game? I think it's a realistic possibility that Steph Curry is going to overtake Bradley Beal and possibly win the NBA scoring title in addition to his 2 MVPs and 3 NBA championships. For a guy who's 33 years old right now, he's showing no signs of slowing down. I think we just have to reevaluate and reassess how old players are and basically just have a new conversation as to, okay, when is a player getting old and in the twilight of his career? Because we see what LeBron James is doing at 36 years old right now. We look at what Steph Curry is doing at 33. He's not slowing down anytime soon. So I hinted at this question earlier on in the show. Is this Steph Curry's best season ever? Yeah, he just had his best week as a pro last week. He's averaging the most points per game that he has in a season in his entire NBA career. So let me know what you think. Type Y for yes or type N for no. Steph Curry's already been in the history books this year, and he's on the verge of making more NBA history. 9 straight games of at least 30 points. That's the second longest streak of any player that the game has ever seen who's aged 33 or older. And Kobe Bryant currently holds the record for the most 30-point games with 10 for a player who is 33 years old or older. Steph Curry is right there. So will he break Kobe Bryant's record? Type 1 for yes, type 2 for no. We're not sure if it's going to happen Monday night against the Philadelphia 76ers or later this week. I think Steph Curry is going to break that record, but he is questionable tonight as we record this against the Sixers because in that wild back and forth game with the Boston Celtics, that was a loss for the Warriors when Jason Tatum was also going off in addition to Steph Curry. It was majestic. Steph Curry did injure his ankle, and throughout his career, that's been an injury that has kind of haunted him over time. He just has a lot of ankle problems, and he hurt his ankle late in that game against the Celtics, and here's what he had to say about that injury. Don't think it's going to be anything long-term, anything too concerning, but it is something to watch because he has had those ankle injuries throughout his career. Steph Curry said this flat out. One of the usual ones I've had in the past, kind of a guessing game at this point, but the fact I can continue, it's a good sign, and as I mentioned, he is questionable for Monday night's game against the Sixers. So if he doesn't overtake Kobe's record against the Sixers because he doesn't play, he'll have an opportunity to do that later in the week against the Washington Wizards or against the Denver Nuggets, against the Sacramento Kings, or the Dallas Mavericks. All those games coming up very winnable for the Warriors as they are now 3-1 in their last 4 games. They're starting to find their footing and starting to get hot in the Western Conference standings as they continue to make up ground in the playoff race. And I'll tell you this, with Donovan Mitchell getting hurt on Friday, I think it is time to look out for the Golden State Warriors, because if I'm the Jazz sitting atop the West, number 1 seed, or if I'm the Phoenix Suns in that number 2 spot, and I'm looking at a potential first-round matchup with the Golden State Warriors, given the way that Steph Curry has been playing on an absolute heater, you know the team in the West that I do not want to face at all? It is the Golden State Warriors, because in a 7-game series, Steph Curry has the ability and the propensity to just go off and win a series all by himself, because look at what he's done over the last couple of weeks. So look out for the Warriors. They are very, very scary with the playoffs about a month away. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Newsbreak. So I recently moved to Dallas, where Chat Sports is headquartered, from Pennsylvania, and how I've kind of gotten acclimated with my new home is the Newsbreak app. So if you go to chatsports.com/WarriorsNB and download the Newsbreak app on your iPhone and Android devices today, on one single feed, you'll be able to check out your local news and weather, politics, pop culture, and food, as well as your sports content. And this has been a great resource for me as I just try to acclimate myself with the Dallas area. If I'm looking for something to do, I go onto the Newsbreak app because it gives me those options. If I just want to find out what's going on in terms of current events, the Newsbreak app gives me that option as well. And while you're on the Newsbreak app, give Warriors Today a follow. We have 70 follows currently. We're trying to get to 100. Can we do that by the end of the week? To my Dubs homies, I think we can. So go to chatsports.com/WarriorsNB, search Warriors Today, and hit that follow button. I'll be sure to leave this link in the description and in the comments as well, because Newsbreak is making it happen, and we're really excited to tell you about our partner. You're watching Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I am Chase Sr. Let's get into the latest roster and injury news with the Warriors. And we kick it off with Gary Payton II. So he signed a 10-day contract a couple of weeks ago, and he has now signed a second 10-day contract because he has impressed Bob Myers as well as Steve Kerr and the rest of the Warriors brass. He's impressed them because, hey, The kid can play defense, and he hasn't gotten a lot of time with the Warriors yet, but when he's been on the floor, he's kind of given them an energetic boost on the defensive end. And when you have a guy who's willing to just kind of stick his nose in there defensively, you can stick around a little bit when you're a gritty and tough player like that. And now, by signing a second 10-day contract, Gary Payton II has an opportunity to earn a roster spot moving forward with the Warriors. And this is what Steve Kerr had to say about Payton recently in terms of him just being impressed by him. Kerr said, quote, "My assistant coaches have been telling me when we put him in, we're not going to want to take him out because of his defense. And I've seen Gary Payton in limited action, only 3.5 minutes per game. He was pretty good against the Celtics over the weekend. Just kind of be a bulldog defensively. And for a journeyman in the NBA who's popped around with a couple of teams, he played in the G League earlier this year in the bubble, and has kind of just tried to find his way in the NBA as a journeyman, you just have to be willing to kind of do whatever you're asked to do, and that's what Gary Payton brings this Warriors team. And as an option off the end of the bench, hey, why not bring in a guy who can play some defense? So you've seen Gary Payton in a limited sample size. Tell me, what do you think of him? Grade it for me in the comments, A, B, C, D, or F. Let's continue on with some Warriors injury news. Kelly Oubre Jr. has missed the last 5 games because of a wrist injury that he suffered on a dunk when he fell. He is questionable Monday night against the Philadelphia 76ers like Steph Curry is, and he's really been out for the last 5 games because of that left wrist soreness, and there's no timetable for his return. It could be tonight against the Sixers. It could be later this week. The Warriors honestly haven't missed his presence in the lineup all that much. Yeah, he's averaging more than 15 points per night and has been pretty solid while being up and down for this Warriors team throughout the entire season, but could return against the Sixers, could return later in the week. As far as Juan Toscano-Anderson, another guy has been an energetic presence off the bench. He is out against the Sixers on Monday night, and it was really a courageous and heroic play that he pulled off against the Celtics over the weekend when he kind of went crashing into the stands trying to save a ball. He suffered a concussion during that play because he hit his head very hard in that game against the Celtics. He is currently in concussion protocol, and he is out. There is no timetable for his return. If you made it this far, that means you like what you're seeing here on Warriors Today. And as I mentioned, we are trying to continue to grow this channel and get to 16,000 subscribers. I'd love to get there by the end of the week, and given how passionate my Dubs peeps are, I think we can do that. We're at 15,535 subscribers right now. We're pushing out multiple videos every single week. We're going to continue to follow the Warriors as they make a run at the NBA playoffs. And later this week, I'm going to give you a couple of NBA draft prospect profiles for some players that the Warriors could target in July's NBA draft.